I bought this book, national bestseller by Dr. Mandy Pels. I bought it the week it came out. I read it. I took notes. And I tried the protocol properly with the cycle timing, the different fasting windows by phases. And for the first couple of weeks, I thought it was working. And then I started to notice something. I was waking up at 3 a.m. I was more tired, not less. And some of my patients, nurses, mothers, women with full pressure demanding lives were telling me the same thing. They were saying, I tried the fasting. I felt terrible. I lose my period. I thought there was something wrong with me, this is. I want you to know something right now before we go any further. There was nothing wrong with them, and there was nothing wrong with me either. But there was something missing from that advice. The book is good. Dr. Mandy Pearce is right about fasting needs to be adapted for the female physiologic. That is genuinely important and undervalued truth. But the book and almost every piece of fasting advice you will find anywhere makes one assumption it never actually checks. And if that assumption is wrong about you, the entire protocol backfires. Today, I'm going to show you exactly what that assumption is. I'm going to explain in plain English why fasting works brilliantly for some women and quietly destroy others. And by the end of this video, you will know which category you are in and what to do about it. My name is Zaina. I'm a nurse. I work with women navigating their health under real life pressure, not in ideal condition, not with time to spare, but in the middle of full, demanding, complicated lives. And in this video, I want to do something I do not see happen anywhere else in this space. I do not want to give you a protocol. I want to give you the mechanism. Because once you understand what is actually happening in your body, the right protocol becomes obvious. You stop asking, should I be fasting? And you start knowing. We are going to cover why the research on fasting was not built for women. What happens in your hormonal system when you fast under stress? And why those two things together are the missing chapter from every fasting guide I've ever read. So stay with me. This is going to change how you think about this entirely. Here is a number I want you to sit with for a moment. Researchers reveal 71 fasting studies. 71. And only 13 of them included women, fewer than 1 out of 5. So when you read that intermittent fasting improves insulin sensitivity, reduce inflammation, support metabolic health, that data is largely built on male bodies, male hormones, male metabolic rhythm, male stress response. And the clinical trial that makes this clearest, run by researchers at the University of Illinois, Chicago, they looked at what happens when men and women both do alternated day fasting for 3 weeks. Same protocol, same duration, but different outcomes. After 3 weeks, the men's insulin sensitivity had improved. The women's had worsened. Blood sugar control decline in women. That is not a side effect. That is the body telling you clearly that this protocol is not natural for female physiologic. So if you have tried fasting properly, consistently, doing everything right, and you felt worse, you didn't fail the fast. The fast failed you. Or more accurately, the research that the fast was built on didn't include you. If you are new here, subscribe. Every week I post about health that actually works in real life. And this video is a good example of why that matters. But here is where it gets more specific because not all women respond to fasting the same way. In a few minutes, I'm going to tell you about a specific mechanism in your brain, a neuropeptide that almost no one talks about in women health content, that explains exactly why some women lose their period when they fast. But first, I need to show you the assumption. The one thing every fasting protocol skips. I work with a framework I call the three-level health system. And the reason I'm bringing it up here is because it explains structurally why fasting advice so often fail women who are under real life pressure. Level 1, your foundation. Level 1 is your nervous system regulation, your cortisol rhythm, your sleep quality, your overall capacity. This is the level that determines whether your body is operating from a place of safety or a place of threat. Level 2, protocols. Level 2 is where protocols live. Food timing, fasting window, cycle syncing, micros. This is the level that almost all health content, including most books on fasting, operates in. Level 3, optimization. Level 3 is fine tuning, supplement, specific biohacking tools. The stuff that matters when everything else is already working. Here is the rule that the book does not include, that the protocol does not mention, that almost no fasting guide ever tells you. You cannot successfully run a level 2 protocol on a level 1 body that hasn't healed. What does that mean in practice? It means that if your nervous system is dysregulated, if you are under chronic stress, if your cortisol is elevated, if your sleep is broken, if your body is running a persistent low-grade threat response, layering a fasting protocol on top of that does not help. It compounds the problem. Fast Like a Girl started at level 2. It assumes your level 1 is stable. It assumes your cortisol rhythm is functioning. Your nervous system is regulated. Your body has the capacity to receive the protocol and use it well. For some women, that assumption is correct. For many of the women I work with, nurses, mothers, caregivers, women under real life pressure, it is not. This is the missing chapter. Not just from the book, from all of them. Save this video. The three-level framework is something I will be building on across the whole channel. You will want to come back to this. I promised you earlier on a mechanism, right? So here it is. And this is the part I want you to pay attention to, because I almost never hear this explained in women's health content. When you fast, when you extend the gap without food, your hypothalamus detects a shift in energy availability. It reads the signal, less glucose, elevated cortisol, the body is under resource pressure, and it makes a decision. It starts to turn down non-essential system. The most energetically expensive system in a woman's body is the reproductive system. So that is where it starts. Deep in your hypothalamus, there is a neuropeptide called Kisspeptin. Think of it as the on switch for your cycle. Kisspeptin drives the release of GnRH, gonadotropin releasing hormone, which then signal the pituitary to release LH and FSH, which then drive ovulation. Research has shown that fasting reduces Kisspeptin's level and decrease the numbers of Kisspeptin expressing neurons in the hypothalamus. When Kisspeptin drops, LH pulses slows. When LH pulses slows, ovulation becomes irregular or stops. This is not a malfunction. This is your body's intelligence. In a moment of perceived scarcity, which is what consistent fasting signals, your body prioritizes survival over reproduction. It is doing exactly what it is designed to do. Now, and this is where it becomes specific to women under stress. This entire response is amplified when your cortisol baseline is already elevated. Fasting raises cortisol in everyone. That is part of how the body generates energy in a fasted state. It is normal and it is by design. But there is a meaningful difference between a cortisol response in a body that is otherwise calm and resourced and a cortisol response in a body that is already running a chronic stress load. If you are a woman under real life pressure, caring for others, shift works, broken sleep, relentless mental load, your cortisol is already elevated, more than it should be, and you add a morning fasting window to that, you have now extended the period of cortisol elevation right into the hours your body uses to calibrate the start of the day. The result, more anxiety, not less, more fatigue, not less, weight not shifting or going towards the wrong direction, a cycle that shorten or disappear. And the women experiencing this are following the protocol correctly. The protocol is simply wrong for their current physiological state. Share this with a woman you know who has tried fasting and fared worse. She needs this explanation. Now, I want to be fair to fasting because for some women, it is genuinely transformative. And I think it matters that I name who those women are and why, rather than leaving you with the expression that fasting is simply bad. A 2025 meta-analysis, one of the most comprehensive review of its kind, looked at intermittent fasting in women with PCOS, and the result was significant. Fasting insulin dropped. Insulin resistance improved, testosterone level reduced, sex hormone binding globulin, SHBG, increased, and 65 to 78% of participants showed improved menstrual regularity with just 8 to 12 weeks. Why does fasting help in PCOS specifically? Because in PCOS, the underlying drive is often insulin-driven androgen excess. High insulin signals the ovaries to produce excess testosterone. That excess testosterone disrupts the cycle. The irregular periods, the hair, the skin, the weight. Fasting reduces insulin, which reduces the androgen signals, which gives the cycle a chance to regulate. The mechanism is completely different to how fasting is generally marketed. It is targeted. It works at a specific drives of their condition, and the evidence for it is real. But even in PCOS, if your stress load is high, the cortisol cost of fasting may outweigh the insulin benefit. The, the framework still applies. Level 1 must be stable enough to support a level 2 intervention, even when the protocol is the right one. So, how do you know where you are? I want to give you 3 questions, not a quiz, not a program, just 3 questions to ask yourself right now. Question 1: what is my current stress load? Not, are you stressed? Everyone is. Are you waking up between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. with your mind already racing? Are you exhausted after a full night of sleep? Is your anxiety running higher than usual? Are you running on empty even when you are rested? And if yes, your cortisol baseline is already elevated. Adding a morning fast extends the cortisol window. It does not reset it. This is not the right time for the fasting protocol. Question 2: do you have a PCOS or an insulin-driven condition? If yes, and if your stress load is manageable, fasting may be one of the most powerful tools available to you. Not because it starves your body, but because reducing insulin changes the entire hormonal downstream. That is a different mechanism and a meaningful one. Question 3: are you eating enough overall? This sounds simple, but it matters enormously. Many of the women I see who are fasting are actually chronically undereating, skipping breakfast out of busyness, not eating until they feel fainted, and then adding a fasting window on top. That is not fasting. That is restriction on top of a restriction. And it compounds the cortisol and Kisspeptin response I have described. If your answer says not yet, if your stress load is high, you do not have PCOS, and you are already not eating enough, fasting is not your next step. Here is what is. Eat breakfast within 1 hour of waking. This sounds almost too simple, but it is directly supporting your cortisol awakening response. The natural cortisol raise in your first 30 to 60 minutes after waking that your body needs to calibrate the day's rhythm. Skipping breakfast extends that cortisol elevation at exactly the wrong time. Make the first meal protein focused. 35 to 40 grams of protein at breakfast reduce cortisol reactivity, support blood sugar stability throughout the morning, and sends your body the clearest possible signals. You are safe, you are resourced, and the day can begin. And if your answer says yes carefully, if your stress load is manageable, you have PCOS or an insulin-driven condition, and you are eating adequate calories, a gentle 12 to 12 is a reasonable starting point. 12 hours eating, 12 hours not. Nothing extreme, and give your luteal phase of your cycle, the 2 weeks before your period, a wider window or no window at all. Because progesterone sensitivity during that phase makes fasting a higher cortisol risk. Here is what I want you to take from this video. Fasting is not the villain, and the book is not wrong. The missing chapter in the book and in almost every piece of fasting advice you will ever read is the chapter they should have written first. The chapter about what needs to be in place before the fasting protocol can work. If you tried fasting and felt worse. You were not undisciplined. You were not weak. You were not doing it wrong. Your body was telling you with complete clarity that it needs something different first. And that response, that is not a failure. That is your body communicating. The work is not to override that signal. The work is to listen to it. If this video helped you make sense of something you have been experiencing, I want to hear about it in the comments. Tell me, did you try fasting and have a response you cannot explain? Because that experience is far more common than anyone is talking about. And the more of us that name it, the more the conversation shifts. Subscribe if you want more content like this. Health that makes sense in real life with the science behind it. I will see you in the next one.